Hi and welcome to the eMTB show. This is season 2, episode 4. It's me, Gary, and we've got James here. Hi, James.
Hi, Gary.
How are you?
Good, you?
Not bad, not bad. Not been out on the bike a lot, but feeling like I will be able to this weekend, hopefully.
Yeah, it's been a few weeks. I was out last weekend and I did my personal best along the front.
Did you go on the bike?
1 hour 53. Yes, I did. But it was a really nice day. And I think also when you're kind of not trying to keep up or faster or slower than anyone else, you kind of just go at a different pace. So that was quite good. But that was the first time I'd used it. Otherwise, it's just literally been raining and particularly unpleasant.
Yeah, that whole bike cleaning necessity is really starting to grate at the moment. My bike is still caked in mud from the last time we were out.
Yeah, mine too. And in fact, the last time I rode it, it wasn't clean, and it's developed a new squeak. So I think I do need to clean it and put it on the bike stand and see what's starting to become loose.
Yeah, like the back wheel.
Yeah, that might be it. If I stop pedalling, the squeak goes. So it's either chain or pedal related. I've discovered that's about as much as I'm capable of determining by myself.
Yeah. I've still got lots of mud on mine and a slightly saggy back tyre, but I think that's part of the course really with my fully holed up tyres with all the sealer leaking out of them. But it seems to be working.
I did actually ask the question last time I went to the shop about air loss in a couple of weeks through a tubeless tyre, and I was told that was quite normal.
Yeah, I think so. And I think you're supposed to give them a bit of air every time you go out, but whether you do or not is another thing. What are we talking about today?
We are talking about, he says, desperately scrolling, a new bike.
Yeah.
The Trek Super Caliber, which does look very cool. The motor that's in it. Yes,
that's very interesting actually.
The current reading wheel size.
Yeah, I'm going down a rabbit hole, as it were. It's almost like a YouTube rabbit hole where I've got slightly over obsessed with some of the deeply technical articles about wheel size, which I really need to get over, but we'll talk about that.
Okay, interesting. I'll get comfortable for that one. Our Strava club and updates, and some of the stuff that's been posted, which is very cool. One in particular in the snow. How the guy stays on, I've no idea.
Yeah.
Speed box tuning of eMTBs.
Yes, the inevitable did happen, and it's about time you fessed up on it.
I don't know what you're talking about, so maybe not talk about that one. A Twitter poll we ran on whether you would have preferred more torque or more speed or longer battery life, longer endurance. And I'm not going to spoil the answer of that one. You're going to have to listen till right to the end to hear that. Although someone did comment on it and say, why don't you run a poll as to whether you should have tan sidewalls or not? So we may well just do that.
I think we should. I think it's important, that one.
And upgrades to various bikes that we may have that we've done.
Yeah. And the James upgrades, how they continue.
But some of them are completely unplanned.
Right, okay. You can justify that in a minute.
And then make it justifiable.
In the old eMTB tech world, there's some interesting new stuff out, but we'll just touch on that in a bit. So I think the most interesting of everything at the moment that's out, certainly in the news, is Trek's new. It's based on the Super Caliber, but it's basically it's called the E Caliber.
Yeah.
But it's effectively a cross-country style bike, not a full-on downhill bike. So it's really, really lightweight. Kind of going up against the Levo SL. I kind of think already it's a better bike. I'm already thinking it's my favourite bike on the planet at the moment, which I thought I'd never say. I do like Trek; they're really nice. And looks like a really interesting bike, but the stuff that's going on it from a technology point of view is mind blowing. So they're using I think it's a Fazua motor system, which is it's not particularly powerful. 55 newton meters of torque, 250 watts of power, and it's got like 450 peak. So it's not hugely powerful, but it's what you'd expect from a lightweight. But what's really interesting is you can completely remove the whole system. So the battery and all the technology and the motor are all one piece, one unit, and you can take it out and just use it as a normal bike. And what you can do as well is you can completely control all the settings for that motor from the app on your phone. So it's really interesting. It's like somebody who wants an e-bike but also wants a normal bike. It's probably the right thing for them, and it's based on a really, really successful, really well made caliber, super caliber. So really interesting. We'll put a link in the show notes to the actual one of the many reviews of it that's out there at the moment. But it is absolutely stunning. It's a little bit more burly than the standard caliber, but the suspension system's exactly as it should be. It's just a lovely looking bike. Drop a post. The one thing, as always, the top spec version of it is insanely expensive. Full carbon, SRAM drivetrain, RockShox seared ultimates, 120mm fork, €12,999.
That is a lot of money.
That is a lot of money. It's only 15.7 kilograms though, which is insanely light for an e-bike, if you ask me. I think that's absolutely amazing. But the cheapest one, what was the cheapest one? Let me find it. It was 6,799, which is still a heck of a lot of money.
Still full carbon, 12 speed.
Yeah. Shimano 12 speed, full carbon frame again. RockShox 35 gold, still 120 travel, dropper post again. 4-pot piston brakes. I think it's probably got a lot of Bontrager. Yes, it's got a lot of Bontrager on it. Nothing wrong with Bontrager, I suppose. But just, they are really, really, really expensive. But they do look absolutely stunning. I think the top spec one, they've got a orange and yellow and orangey red and yellow colourway on it, and it just looks fantastic. Really interesting bike. I would love to have a go on one of those. And we do have a reseller over here that has Trek, so I'll have to see if they're going to get one in.
Yeah, it does look very cool. And the amazing colour scheme is obviously only available in the top spec one.
Probably. Yeah, probably. But the battery, this Fazua system that they've got, it's really interesting. The whole bottom half of the frame is the battery, obviously, like a lot of bikes, and right on the bottom of that is the bottom bracket with all the motor gubbins in it and the actual cogs to make it all joined together.
It does look quite cool, and when you pull all of that out, that's over 5 kilos comes straight out.
Yeah, definitely. And if you go on the Fazua website, there's a load of stuff about how it all works. The actual units, they've got a really clever representation of it next to a pepper grinder of all things, which looks slightly phallic for a pepper grinder, but it's really clever. They've got different types of remotes for different bikes. They even have things like bags to put your unit in when you're not using it. It's very, very cleverly thought out system. And it's really interesting as well. They've got Focus, Canyon, Cube, Trek all involved with them as well. So really interesting.
I think we have said a couple of episodes ago, there has to be so much innovation now in areas that you never thought would exist.
Yeah, I think so. I think we've got to the point now where making an e-bike, there's a standard set of principles that you put into place. Now it's all about making yours better than everybody else's. And range and lightweight and the kinematics. God, yeah, don't forget the kinematics.
Can't forget that. Can't lose that word.
Well, disappointingly, no tan sidewalls.
Is it disappointing?
Well, let's put a poll out for that one.
I tell you what is disappointing, but not yet.
Okay.
And it does have to do with tan sidewalls. Oh my God, I haven't even watched. There's a new What's New in Blue video as well.
Is there?
I haven't even seen what's new.
On the top shelf? Because it sounds like it.
Well, it will need to be. But, I mean, what could there be that's new? Sometimes it's just like the evolution of the tools that's almost as exciting.
So it's a spanner with a slightly longer handle.
Wheel straighteners capable of, or
Straightening wheels.
tool, but for bigger wheels or something.
I watched a very funny video on YouTube the other day about a guy first time out on a trail with a mate, and he's bent his wheel, and his mate's just smacking his wheel over the edge of a log, straightening it, and the guy's going, "Are you sure that's the right thing to do?" And yeah. I used to work in a bike shop, and he's basically just banging hell out of this wheel on the side of a log. And next minute he's riding it again. I was like, yeah, okay, that's got to be the trick of camera because I don't think that
sound
works.
like a great idea.
Yeah. So what is
So
new in
speaking
Blue?
of wheels,
Oh, go on then.
oh, I haven't watched it yet. That's an exciting thing for next episode. I tend to find with the Park Tool stuff that I like to know it's there and get excited about what it's going to be. You can't watch it immediately. As soon as the thing comes up on YouTube saying they've posted a video, you can't be one of the first.
No, that's just
That's
weird.
just very sad. So, current reading wheel size.
Yeah, so I've got to stop this really, but every now and again, and I always talk about this magazine, eMountain Bike magazine, on the webness is really good for this sort of stuff, but it is like going into a rabbit hole. There's a really good article between basically talking about 27.5s versus 29-inch wheels, what's best on an e-bike specifically, and it's actually really interesting, and it's about the fact that a 29er isn't actually a 29er, which I never actually realised. It's a lot smaller than that, same as a 27 is. I think they actually said something like a 27 is actually something like a 23-inch wheel. But the actual diameter should include a tyre. That's how they actually work it out. Probably obvious now, but I never realised that. But it's all about things
so
like...
the rim is a lot smaller.
The rim is a lot smaller. It basically takes into account a tyre to make it a 29er, which I never knew.
That's a bit like a TV having a massive bezel on it, and you have to
it's a
measure diagonally
45-inch
across the bezels.
screen, and it's not actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really interesting, and they talk
interesting.
about the difference and how what effect it has, but on things like the contact area, the strength, the actual rolling resistance, the speed of acceleration, and the whole thing with mullet bikes now, where you've got smaller one on the back, big one on the front, and that all play into those characteristics. So it's a good read if you're a bit sad, because there's lots of pen diagrams which are quite good and nerdy. And
Venn diagrams.
pen,
or
not
pen
Venns.
diagram.
Pen-based
Oh, right,
diagram.
okay.
Like somebody sketched all this stuff out. It's really cool.
Cool.
It's actually genuinely a really good read. So I recommend that one.
What? But hang on a minute. What was the actual conclusion?
So that it's about what it doesn't really. There isn't really a conclusion. It's about what type of rider you are and what type of riding you want to do. But it doesn't necessarily. So I like going down rocky stuff, and I think it's really good fun. And they say a 29 is really good for that. But I also like really rapid acceleration. 27 is better. 27.5 is better for that. So I probably should have a mullet bike, really. But I don't like the idea of having completely different size wheels on a bike and then being hauled up somewhere with something broken that I can't replace because I have to carry two different sizes of everything.
If you had, I don't know why they've not invented this, and this will show my age. There was a
Penny farthing.
no, there was an animal.
That was the first
in
mullet.
Who was the Doctor Dolittle? Right? He had a book. He had an animal that was a push me pull you. I'm sure it was something like that. So it was like a zebra that had a head on either end. So it was like a double-headed zebra or double-headed giraffe, and they were called push me pull yous. So I remember that. So if you had a bike, right, that had two steerings, had like two sets of handlebars, and one of them had a 27.5 and one of them had a 29, then if you wanted to go down on rock, you could ride it down one way, and then you just turn it round and ride it the other way if you want to get some speed.
Right, okay.
Does that work?
I think it's going to have a few challenges with that design.
Well, I'm going to invent it.
I think. Well, yeah. I'm not sure it'll work. It might do.
You'd
Do you
have to
know-
lock, like,
Go on.
what?
I was going to say.
You'd have to lock out the rear handlebar, otherwise you just go around in a circle.
Can you imagine a rear wheel steering a mountain bike? That'd
I think
be
it'd be
hilarious.
cool.
Front wheel
Just to
drive
get
and rear wheel
around
steering.
tight circles really quickly.
That's
And
basically.
do it so that the back tyre comes out to bring the back round. I think it'd be quite cool.
Yeah, I think you'd lose your
I
teeth.
mean, I think I do that in the mud anyway. Seems to be what happens.
Do you know, a penny farthing is a front wheel drive bike? Did you ever think of it like that? I never thought of it like that before. And just talking
I
about a
suppose it
penny
does, 'cause
farthing
the
being a
chain
mullet,
goes-
It's a mullet and a front wheel drive. It's basically what defines the future of mountain biking.
How
Who
does a
knew
penny
it?
farthing steer though? Do you steer with that little trailer wheel?
No, because that would be rear wheel steering, front wheel drive, which is what I've just called out as possible complete madness.
But how? I have to find a picture now.
I'm going to have to YouTube
when
penny
you
farthings.
steer, you're actually steering. You're actually twisting the whole frame.
I don't know actually. You must
Because
be just
because otherwise you're going to bend the chain.
Can you imagine how much gas canisters you'd need, or muck off BAM to actually refill that front tyre?
Quite a lot. I'm
Yeah.
going to Google now, penny farthing. And with a clicky keyboard, everybody's going to hear.
Steering characteristics of a penny farthing, and how fast can you go downhill on one?
There are actually videos on how to ride a penny farthing or other high wheel bicycle.
Is there another high wheel bicycle?
Oh, I've realised now. When you actually look at the picture of a penny farthing, and we will do some clever telemetry to get a picture of this for those of you watching on YouTube. The crank arms are actually connected to the centre of the front wheel. So there is no chain. It's literally just
It's direct drive.
pedaling the wheel.
It's front
It
wheel
is a
direct drive.
motor. It's a hub drive.
I've just seen a picture of a guy riding a penny farthing in full lycra. I'm not sure he's getting those, what do they call it, incremental improvements or whatever, by wearing lycra on a penny farthing. Ooh, look at this though. Cycle Optic. Have you seen that one? Electric penny farthing. See the future. We've seen it already.
No, I'm just looking at a picture where there's like the down tube has like a little hook on it, which is probably for a bag or something like that. But if you were to slip off, I mean, you'd never father children again. It's such a dangerous idea. You would get caught on that, and then you'd be like a couple of octaves higher.
Yeah. Right.
But I do like it because it's not tan sidewalls. That never took off for a penny farthing.
It'll be a lot of tan. That's the problem.
And also, you would need the wheel truer 7.3 from Park Tool to get the 27-foot wheel on the... Anyway. What, you've even added the electric penny farthing.
I'm also going to, this has to go into the show notes, the Zebra OTB, 21st Century Mountain Bike penny farthing.
Cycloptic.
So there is a mountain bike penny farthing. I knew I hadn't lost my
What?
balls completely. I will share that with you and the rest of the world who don't already know about it. It's mental. The world has actually gone mad. I wonder if it's a coronavirus-related incident that's caused this.
Now that does look very cool. I will put a picture of that up. I'll put a link on the podcast, and I'll put a picture up on for those of you listening on YouTube.
Of which
that is very cool.
The OTB.
The the penny farthing mountain bike.
Yes, it is epic. It's got Schwabbles. It's actually got a full-size Magic Mary Schwabble tyre on the front.
I was about to say, I think this
That
is
must be
all
custom made.
3D. Oh no, I don't know. It looks.
No, it's real. It's real.
I tell you what,
I want to
My
ride
challenge-
that down a hill.
I'm going to 3D print one of these. So I'll be back here in 12 and a half years, and I will show you how I've gone.
It's got fat bars, proper decent shock on it. It looks like it's got disc brakes. Oh my gosh! It's got pegs like stunt pegs off the back of a BMX, which is a little bit weird. I'm not quite sure what they're all about. But hey,
Yeah,
it's
but
the
I
future.
struggle to find a bike rack that I can actually put my front wheel into. So that's going to be an absolute nightmare. It's never going to work.
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely got challenges in its design.
And there's no bottles. There's no bottle
No
holder.
bottle cage. Yeah, it's the future there. So anyway, that's the problem with wheel size. You start going down those sort of rabbit holes. Let's move on quickly.
We've talked about my Formula One idea before, I think, have we not? With wheel sizes.
We may have. Maybe you want to elaborate?
So I was I was trying to have this debate many years ago, and I'm obviously no physicist or anything remotely similar. I can manage an iPad, and that's about it. But I worked out, right, that if you had a normal car tyre and you put a mark on it when it was on the ground, and then you rolled it one revolution or one complete turn round so the mark was on the ground again, and you thought about that distance, then surely if you had a much bigger wheel, it would go further for the same number of revolutions. So why don't Formula One cars have tractor tyres?
Cornering capabilities.
There's obviously some reason, and someone can
I can
email
imagine,
in, but
I think you should actually go and call
it would look
McLaren
quite
now.
cool.
Bit noisy,
I can't
though,
give them the secret. I can't tell them. They'll just take my secret.
Yeah, that's true. Let's talk about other stuff. So, eMTB tech, or more eMTB tech that's come out. Intense Taser, new mountain bike that's looking quite epic. We'll put a link in the show notes about it. Looks, again, incredibly expensive, but also quite rather nice. Looks rather nice. There's a few other things that have come out which are slightly more bonkers, though, that we must share. One of them being
Live telemetry.
yes. Yeah, it's a little bit live telemetry. So Mondrake have brought out a new bike with a live telemetry system on it. So there's sensors, magnets all over the frame in different parts that work out what your suspension sag is and how you're riding it on your weight and everything else, and basically tells you to get off and walk. Or you can then go into the app and reset everything, and it tells you what you need to set the suspension to. And I think you can actually do all the adjustments on your app, which is slightly insane.
That is very cool.
Yeah. There's another one, though, that's even more bizarre, which is basically magnetic pedals, which I'm kind of slightly alarmed about, but also I think might be the future of getting you into clipless shoes. Magnetic pedals.
Oh, I thought the whole crank was magnetic, and I'm like, you had an experience of that fairly recently.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to do that too far from home.
What's magnetic?
So basically, it's hybrid pedals. They've got magnets built into them, and you have a thing on the bottom of your shoe that then helps you grip it. It seems obvious when you talk about it, but I'm not sure how far they've got to go in life. Worth a try, though. I'm trying to get a picture of it now as well.
It does sound like a bit of a gimmick. I prefer the old nails on the.
So it's still got them. It's
pedals.
basically, it's called a mag ped, and it's basically where you would normally have a mountain bike pedal with the clipless element in the middle that moves around.
Yeah,
it's got a very strong magnet instead, and then instead of having the cleat on the bottom of the shoe, you've just got a plate, and it works like that. Works based on simple magnetics, which probably is a lot easier to get in and out of, and probably less stressful. Because you haven't, but I've definitely experienced the falling out off your bike because you can't get your feet out fast enough, which is quite.
Oh, I have done that.
But you don't even have topless pedals.
No, but years ago I had a Scott full suspension bike in the days before eMTB, and I got to the top of a hill and stopped, and I couldn't remember whether it was my left or my right one that I was supposed to get out first, and I went straight over the top. I think that was the last time I used that bike. And the good thing about the magnetic thing is as well that you'll pick up, by the time you finish your ride, you'll have about 3 kilos of nails and pins that you've taken off the road that you've picked up as you've been going along.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, that's quite interesting.
I do worry with some of this stuff though about kind of planned obsolescence, because as they're getting more and more tech and there's more and more intelligence going on, you're buying into it and you think this is great, but then your app gets not developed and then it goes into the next generation, and then they don't look at the generation that was there before, and that certainly in cars, that just irritates me.
No, agreed. And I think the worst thing, kind of how tragic would it be to be stood there in a shop saying I need some new pedals because the ones I've got are no longer supported. It should be just pedals. So let's move on from that. I think there's a sensible limit, and I think we're touching on the edge of that at the moment with some of the stuff that's out there. Some of it's good, some of the innovations are good. Anything that's all about range and riding quality, I think, is good. But I think some of the stuff is just a bit bonkers.
Yeah.
So let's talk about other tech that's certainly on your bike at the moment that you need to admit to.
Yeah, so I can't remember what it's called now. I think it. So it was my brother, and I'll blame him. He had an eMTB, which he on private roads de-restricted with. I'm sure it's called a speed. Is it a speed box?
Yeah,
Which
so.
basically goes on the Bosch motor. So you take the motor out and you plug it. It's got some pass-through connectors, the same as the Bosch ones. You pass it through, and then when you want to de-restrict the bike, you press the walk button, and then it either lets it completely de-restricted or it lets it go to a certain speed, and you can program what that is. So actually, if on a private road you want to take it to 25 kilometers an hour, which is the US is 25, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or 30 kilometers an hour, you can program it to that rather than completely unrestricted. He sold his eMTB and bought something else and gave the speed box to me, which was burning a hole in the drawer that it was in, and I can't remember exactly how I got. I'm going to say I got talked into it because that takes any obligation away from me. But I was having a chat with the local bike shop, and they're like, "Look, put it in, and then you don't have to use it. And then if you want to use it on a private road, which is any legal place you can use it, then you know it's there and you can turn it on." So I waited all of about 3 hours, took the bike in, and got it fitted. It wasn't an easy thing to fit on my Cannondale because the whole motor and all the mechanics had to come out in order to get the motor, drop the motor out, because it's so well hidden in there, and got it fitted. I've used the bike a few times since, and I've used the speed box once.
Wow, okay.
It goes back, and we'll feed into the Twitter poll. For me, I can see the benefit of another 3 or 4 miles an hour so that you can keep up with traffic.
Yeah.
But anything more than that, I just think is ridiculous and a bit dangerous.
Yeah.
But
Because I think, and to that point, you're never going to go flat out fast on a off-road piece or anything, or some trail, because you'll just have an accident. You don't.
no, exactly.
The only time I don't use turbo on a trail unless I'm trying to get up something ridiculously steep. The rest of the time it's in normal mode because it's just too hairy otherwise.
Yeah.
So the only place you're going to use it is on the road, which kind of makes sense, really. And the thing that go on, you carry on. I was going to say the thing that I've noticed a lot of at the moment, and there's a lot on Twitter, is people doing polls and people doing petitions to get e-bikes in the UK. The regulations lifted to the same as in America, so people can keep up with traffic, so they're not pressured by cars, and cars aren't cutting them up to overtake them, which is the big problem for a lot of cyclists. And the argument is you can keep up with traffic on a normal road bike because they're fast and light. It's very hard to keep up with traffic on a mountain bike or an e-bike because they're heavy and slow. So, and the thing that a lot of people are saying is cars are getting stressed and putting them under pressure because they're being held up by them, so they're then overtaking them or undercutting them or having a go at them, when actually if they just get to 20 miles an hour, they'd probably be fine. So I kind of
why
get that.
is there the difference? I mean, it's not a stupid question in terms of why the difference in the law, because they're different countries. I can get that. But I wonder why there is a difference in the speed, because actually, don't know.
It's not.
There's
I mean,
no logic to it.
The idea of it's too fast to be going 20 miles an hour or 25 miles an hour on a push bike is a load of rubbish, because you can quite happily pedal along at 25 miles an hour on a road bike in a set of Lycra and no protection, and you'll be fine. You're not gonna disintegrate at that sort of speed, or you're gonna hit a wall out of control. So the argument is flawed massively. I think it's a lack of understanding more than anything that caused that. So they've basically, what, a bike with a motor on it? Oh, we've got to, let's hold that one back a bit.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I wonder whether they'll actually get that to change.
Yeah, we'll see.
So Speedbox, I'm sure it's called Speedbox, I'll put a link to it anyway, is in, and the good thing is it's not on all the time, it's only on when you want it, so that's perfect. But as I say, I've used it once.
And what, so you think, so why do you think that is the case, that you've only used it once? You don't feel like you need to be going any faster anywhere else?
Yeah, exactly. I actually think that is a sensible speed. I think the only thing I do find with mine is, and I think that is, mine is a particularly heavy bike, but I think with the Bosch system, the friction when the motor cuts out is more than yours on your Bros motor. Yeah. And I think it would help. Another 5 miles an hour would help, but actually 90% of the time, I'm really happy not to have to worry about that.
Yeah. And to your point, which is part of the Twitter thing, my concern about them is, one, it's that excessive wear, but then also the impact on range. For me, that's the reason.
Well, I think they did say in the shop, if you use it and you sit in turbo all the time and you're going to sit on the 11th or 12th gear or whatever it is, you're just going to wear your cassette out. Although you can now buy specific rings rather than the whole thing, but
not ideal.
Doesn't seem sensible. So I don't see the point. We did run a Twitter poll a couple of weeks ago around, would you prefer a range or torque or speed, and the answer was 80% of you said, or 80% of those that responded said range is most important, and I think that is fair.
That's right. Yeah, that's the one thing for me. I would like to be able to be, I suppose, is all day the right term? But I would like to be able to be out all day on mine with not having to think about how far left have I got before I'm starting to think about going home. I just want to be able to say, right, I'm going out first thing in the morning, I'm going to come back when it gets dark, like I used to do on mountain bikes years ago. I'd probably be knackered by then, but
and be able to walk the next day.
Yeah, and without having to have the saddle removed surgically. But that's something that you can't do at the moment. Definitely can't do at the moment. So yeah, that's range for me. Definitely. I don't need more speed. I don't need more power, because the reality is, apart from that bit on roads where we just talked about being able to keep up with traffic, everything on trails, it's fast enough.
Do you think, though, that because you've got a standard kind of full fat motor in your eMTB, if you had a super light, you would answer the question differently? Do you think you might be asking for more torque and more power?
I don't think so, because I think the more torque and more power is a necessity of the weight. It's drawn out by the weight of the bike. If the bike was unbelievably light, I don't think you'd need the power that comes with it in the first place. I think a lot less. And I mean, it's difficult to say. I haven't ridden any of the super lights to be able to say compare them, but again, then a super light's not anywhere near the range of a normal one as well. So, but do you need it when it's using less power anyway? So it's an interesting one. I think if we can just get to the point where we can get 100 miles on a battery, that would be it. We don't need to go any further. That would be amazing. But I think the problem is the technology isn't there yet. That's why people like Rocky Mountain and Specialized and lots of others are doing these plug-in add-on batteries,
boosters,
which just writes off the weight restrictions or the removal of weight in the first place. So you spend a lot of money on a very lightweight bike, and then you bolt a second battery on it. It's like, you might as well just build a normal one.
Yeah. Interesting to see where that goes. The only other upgrade that I have done on that bike is change the pedals to the DMR midis, I think they are, which are amazing. The little screws that go in the bottom that poke up through to weld to your shoes, I think, are amazing.
Or your shin. depending on
Yeah,
how
that
you're
is the
going that
problem.
day.
I won't show you, but I got quite a lot of scars and things now from that. And I was saying to you earlier the other day, the loop on my laces got caught and then twisted round, and that was an interesting accident about to happen.
Reminds me of the days of BMXs with bear claw or bear trap pedals. I've got memories of flesh being hanging off those things, me lying on the floor screaming. Those are the days.
It's way too much. I have done another upgrade on the bike that I'm not allowed to talk about.
Okay, that's got its own channel now. It should have.
But I can talk about it because I'd like to talk about it in the context of eMTBs.
Okay, go for it.
Do I get permission to talk
Yes,
about it?
yeah, go for it. Go for it.
So I have, for those of you that have only just started listening, I bought, I can't remember when, August, September,
Oh yeah.
a Cannondale Topstone Neo 2 e-gravel bike, which has got the same Bosch Performance Line CX motor, the Shimano GRX group set, and it's a great bike, really great bike. Carbon fibre frame, it really is good. If I had to give it up tomorrow, I wouldn't be upset, is how I felt up until a couple of weeks ago. I absolutely love the eMTB. I love the fact that you can throw it around everything and it will be much more capable of anything that I want to put it through. And if it's funny weather or raining or icy or whatever, I'll go straight for the eMTB and I won't even think about the e-gravel bike. Even though the e-gravel bike is a fantastic bike, you know, it's light, it's fast, the acceleration is ridiculous on it, top speed, you know, is brilliant. And although you do notice when the motor cuts out, it's, you know, it's just not got the weight. But I was just never, I don't know whether it's because I hadn't used it enough. I just wasn't confident on it, and I was always very nervous about it.
It is a completely different type of bike, completely different riding style, and you've got to be quite ballsy with a gravel bike off-road. That's a reality of them. But
Yeah.
you've done stuff now that's helped that, haven't you?
So I have. I listened to some of the guys at Big Maggie's, the bike shop that we go to, and they suggested bring it down and let's see what we can do, what they can do with the tyres. And because I don't know if those of you that know the Topstone, some of them have got the single-sided Cannondale fork, the lefty, in which case you can put a much wider tyre on it. Mine's the two, so it's got a carbon fibre traditional fork. So took it down to see what we could put on it. And actually they had some tyres in stock that had 29-inch or 700C tyres. But actually they had a couple of tyres in stock. So we took it from 42mm tyres to 47mm.
Which is a massive leap in tyre size.
It is a massive leap. And the bike looks completely different now, and they're a bit more knobbly. And it's given me real confidence, and I've really started to enjoy the bike, which I think is really good. And then the question came up, obviously in the shop, you know, when I went back and said I'm really pleased with this and I've got a lot more confidence in it. The question came up, I wonder how many people are out there that have got a bike that they're just not happy with because they haven't thought about doing any upgrades, or they haven't thought about changing it to something that actually gives them a bit more confidence.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what that's like off-road now as well. Because it was very squirrely on those other. I actually thought those tyres were pretty slim for a gravel bike, and especially a weighty gravel bike.
Yeah.
So yeah, really different, and it does look different. It looks a lot better actually.
They're still tan though, unfortunately.
Beautiful.
I couldn't. I mean, there was nothing I could do. So I've bought quite a lot of marker pens.
You're going to Sharpie the whole side.
They wear off quite quickly. So yeah, so that was the upgrade I did to that, and I think that will be all the upgrades. I did try and upgrade the rotors to the Ice Tech rotors, but I bought the wrong ones, so I won't be doing that for a while.
Yeah, you can turn those into clocks for the wall or something.
Yes.
So one last thing.
Strava.
Strava. So, for those that don't already know, we have a Strava club. It's called Jersey eMTB Riders. It's not specifically for Jersey people, but it helps with people knowing where we are. And we have a few members, and thank you to those who have joined. Hello and welcome. I want to just call out one individual, Timo, in Helsinki. Now, this guy's a bit of a ledge, and he's on his bike a lot and recording some serious mileage. I think it's the mileage that he's done since he's joined the club, but he's got 89 miles on there at the moment, which is pretty cool. So he's got last week's leaders in distance-wise. Timo's at the top. But also he's posted a video that he's done. He borrowed a Hero 6 off a mate and did some short riding, and he's done a video and it's on YouTube. We'll link it. Really interesting. You've got to tell us what's going on your bars, because you've got some strange thing on the top of your...
Yeah, we couldn't work that out. It looks like the Shimano display, but to the left of that looks like something else that looks quite cool. But
yeah, so there's what looks like two tie wrap type things going on, one on each side of the headset, but at the over the top of the stem, you know those like professional SLR frame mounts that you can get. It looks like something one of those. I don't know. You've got to explain what it is, but the skill trophy goes to the fact that you're doing a ride in some proper snow as well. Proper snow. I don't know how you're doing that and staying on and not losing your teeth, unless you've already lost them. It's pretty impressive. So well done to Timo. Thanks for posting. Thanks for joining. Keep up the good work and keep sending us the stuff in. It's really good.
oh yeah, definitely, it is great to see what people are doing and what they're riding. So no, thank you for that.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that draws us to a close of episode 4. For those of you watching on YouTube, thank you very much. Apologies for having to look at, well, talk about me, having to look at me. I am actually going to get my hair cut on the 1st of March, post-COVID lockdown, so you won't have to look at me looking like a Yeti. But for those of you on YouTube, please consider subscribing and pushing the thumbs up and the bell icon to be notified when the next episode drops.
Yeah, definitely helps.
Yeah, and for those of you on the podcast, thank you very much for listening. We will put the pictures in the YouTube video for where we can of the bits we've talked about, and we'll also put the links in the show notes for those of you on the podcast. As always, if you want to get in touch, email us at podcast@theemtbshow.com or Instagram or Twitter at the eMTB show. And we will speak to you all on the next episode. Thank you, Gary.
Cheers. Thank you. See you again soon.
See you soon. Bye.